strange. I know this is my first time here, but this suddenly makes me feel so nostalgic.
Sunsets will do that, I find, regardless of time period.
Yes, but this must be... Well, I suppose it must be one of those places. So, where am I going?
I've rented an apartment under a false name.
Can't be any worse than our last accommodations. As long as it's not Rebel, I'll take it.
My apologies. If it's any comfort, I'm certain nobody will find you there. Not Shikishima, and certainly not Miss Morimura. I suppose we have Ida-san to thank for all this. The funds and paperwork he prepared were invaluable.
Tetsuya Ida. And he's still missing, is he?
Yes. Let's go. Chihiro-san.
You think I'm the professor?
That is what I said. You are Professor Chihiro Morimura, a major figure in Shikishima in the year 2188. Namely, the leader of its space initiative.
What are you even talking about?
Just some hypotheticals. A possible interpretation of the evidence I found.
Okay, say I am the professor. Remember, Miss Morimura is the one who created me. You think that was her plan? She wanted a host for the professor and not herself? How would that make sense?
Ever since the battle that ended with the Sentinels infected, Miss Morimura has been pushing this operation as one of its fiercest supporters. Miss Morimura ran an experiment to grant her clone compatibility. She believed that you were synchronized to her. She believed it was her own data she transmitted. But it was the other Chihiro Morimura in Sector 0. And of course, you entered the world as a newborn, incapable of verbal communication. So Miss Morimura never realized her mistake.
This is all speculation.
Certainly, yes. But if I'm right, and you are the professor, I imagine you were in quite a panic yourself. All things considered, it was a staggering deviation from the original plan.
What original plan?
Among the logs from 2188, one of Tetsuya Ida's noted that he'd found an anomaly. Chihiro Morimura was set to undergo a memory transplant in the final phase. And the final phase, well, that would be us.
I don't know where you think you're going with this.
A bit of patience, please. There's a little more context I need to provide. The log from the future I saw first. That would be the comms log I found with my own ID. The first log I checked held some surprises. The author seemed to be an elderly Renya Goto. And the date of recording appeared to be 2188. I assumed it was some future version of myself. One that had time traveled into the far future. But now, I don't think that's the case. I believe it's the other way around. In other words, I myself am a clone of him. Every individual I saw in that log footage They all created clones of themselves.
Clones? Huh?
I did find a log that proves this point.
What did you see?
A comms log between you and Professor Takamiya. Her field is genetic engineering, I note.
Professor Takamiya, how are the projections on those self-replicating probes? The simulations look good. Especially the survey range. We never expected a rate of expansion that high. It was definitely the right call to prioritize its strength as a group over individual units. These probes are pretty much living machines now. They self-replicate using natural resources mined from asteroids in their routing. They'll just keep building up and breaking down. An infinite cycle of self-replication on its way to its target. There's basically zero chance of the tech failing midway through. They'll just keep on going. Probably long after humanity's gone. Glad I came to an expert then. All that's left is the refinement of the memory cube. The infrastructural storage cell, right? The cube's made up of 5 identical memory layers. In theory, it'll compare itself to nearby probes and use them as a template for repairs. And if it can't be repaired, well... fine, 1 probe down. We've got thousands more. And our passengers? I'll be loading them up with the DNA of all the survivors. I've already got samples and data from all 15. Now it's just down to launching them. These clones will go with all our hopes on their shoulders. By the way, what do we do about him? I mean, after that DNA test. We do nothing. He doesn't have to know. What can I even say to him? Not much, I guess.
There were 15 survivors of that colony, each with a clone established to be compatible. Though they grew up in different eras, different worlds. And you aimed to replace your clone's memories with your own. That was your real plan. Right now, I imagine your biggest question is precisely how much of that log I've seen. Am I close? You do have a genius mind, but also the form of a child. I imagine it's harder than usual to hide your agitation.
It's absolutely not... Now you're just trying to trick me?
I'd say, based on that log, Professors Takamiya and Morimura seem to know each other quite well. Maybe you'd know something about that.
Of course not.
Then perhaps instead, Tsukasa Okino? Being compatible, that makes one part of his identity clear. He's one of the 15 from the year 2188. So, any theories? Who was he in the year 2188? Care to guess?
Stop it.
No? Then allow me to clarify. That boy, Tsukasa Okino, is Professor Chihiro Morimura's son. But not her child by personal conventional birth. The professor donated her egg cells as a young woman, in accordance with the policies on population control. No comment at this time? Their blood relation wasn't exactly obvious, until DNA testing on the clone revealed it. The professor was faced with the truth. He was her son, which naturally sparked an inconvenient surge of maternal instinct. However, Okino himself didn't think highly of the professor. He had his disagreements with the project staff, too. When it seemed like her end was near, the professor recorded him one final message. One last chance for him to know the truth.
Stop! You saw that? But how? You'd need a biometric ID match to access that log. So you should only have been able to access your own. My logs and Okino's should have been locked off.
Thank you, Professor Morimura. Indeed, the file... files I could access were somewhat limited. Mostly company logs. Meeting reports, call transcripts, bureaucratic chaff. Barely anything in the way of your personal records.
Then, how do you know what was in my logs?
It's simple, really. That should do it for preparations. Now, let's see if the biometric authentication works. Did it go through? Looks like that got me past the initial barrier, at least. Now, with Miss Morimura's ID, I should be able to get into her logs. Maybe, if I check Miss Morimura's logs, I might find a clue why your biometric ID matches hers. It really is her ID.
Iori Fuyusaka?
Though unconscious, she proved very helpful. She is Chihiro Morimura, a compatible version. If you really are Miss Morimura, then you should already know who Iori Fuyusaka is. Because that would mean you hid her here in Sector 4. The plan was for the two newborns to grow up with their own separate lives. Ida-san's idea, presumably. Chihiro Morimura was planned to be placed in 2104, and Tetsuya Ida in 2024, yet neither could be found.
I knew Renya Goto of Shikishima pretty well. You and he are very different. Except that you both make my life a lot harder. So, suppose I am the professor. Then what?
I want to know the truth. I want to know the reasons behind all of this. But that seems unlikely. I imagine you're not inclined to tell me anything.
And why's that?
It'd be inconvenient for you if we had all the facts. Considering you're trying to eliminate us. From the very beginning, you never intended for this world to survive.